Welcome to Keto Meals and Recipes.com. Today I'm going to show you how I make my dill pickles 3 different ways. In this video you will see how I make my classic dill and garlic pickles, spiced bar style pickles, and the Amish mustard flavor. The reason that I'm making this video is actually my son asked me if I could make him some dill pickles for snacks. Since I'm trying to get him to eat healthier and less carby snacks, I agreed to make it for him. And I'm recording this video because I thought it might be a good recipe to share with you as well. It's incredibly easy to make homemade pickled eggs, and there are many different variations, but these are the 3 particular recipes that my family enjoyed and I want to share with you today. But I'm always looking for new variations and flavors on any of my recipes or new suggestions, so please leave me a comment in the description box. I'd love to hear from you. Before giving you the macros, such as they are, I want to say it's very hard to determine the accurate macronutrient level for homemade pickled eggs. That's because you're basically taking a hard-boiled egg, putting it into a flavored brine solution, and some of that solution will be absorbed by the eggs, but not the flavoring ingredients. So this is my best guess. And as a guide for you, the macronutrient ratio for hard-boiled eggs is 1.5 to 1, with 0 carbs and 0 fiber. That's because the eggs are mostly protein and fat. Before starting anything, the very first thing you should do is make sure that you have several clean large-sized mason jars with lids. Now, step 1. I'm going to hard-boil this flat of eggs. To do that, get a very large soup pot and fill about 2/3 with water. Bring the water to a light boil and then carefully transfer the eggs into the boiling water. You'll notice that adding all of the eggs will bring down the water temperature, so put a lid on the pot. That'll help to bring up the temperature faster, and let the water boil for 10 minutes exactly. This will be a perfect hard-boiled egg without being too rubbery. And when your eggs are done at the 10-minute mark, scoop them out and transfer them into an ice water bath. I leave the eggs in this ice water bath for about 30 minutes. I want the eggs to be cool all the way through to the yolk. Before removing the shell, I like to pat dry each egg. It makes it much easier to handle and they're less slippery. Then, I very carefully remove the shell. I want the peeled eggs to have smooth surfaces, which most of the time they do. There are many different ways to peel an egg. My son actually showed me this method with a teaspoon. You begin by cracking the egg at the fatter end. Peel off enough of the shell so that you can slide a teaspoon under the shell. Then very gently, pressing against the inner part of the shell, run the spoon under the shell and with gentle pressure push out to lift off the shell. When you've peeled all the eggs, just put them on a platter and let them rest. And now for step 2. To make the pickled eggs, you need to make the pickled brine. For all of these variations of pickled eggs, the vinegar brine base is basically the same. To make the brine base, get a small saucepan to which you pour in the distilled white vinegar. I like to use white vinegar because it's the least expensive, and after you add your flavorants, it makes no difference if you use the more expensive apple cider vinegar. Then add the water and the sweetener, which, by the way, I ground to a fine confectioner powder, and that's because I want it to dissolve much more quickly. Then I also drop in my coarse salt and the black peppercorns, the garlic, which I cut into small pieces like this, and several dry bay leaves, which I crush into large pieces. Having added all of my brine ingredients, I place the saucepan over medium heat and bring it to a light simmer. I let the liquid simmer for 5 minutes, stirring occasionally, and that's because I want the sweetener to dissolve and the rest of the ingredients to infuse into the vinegar. Once that's done, remove the saucepan from the heat and let the brine cool completely to room temperature. Now we're going to move on to step 3. While my brine is cooling, I'm going to add 8 of my large hard-boiled eggs to each of the 3-quart or slightly larger than 1 liter sized mason jars. Since the next 2 versions required the cooked brine, I'd pour the brine into the mason jars, dividing the brine equally. And then it's time to add the additional ingredients. because it's at this point that you customize the flavor of your pickled eggs. Now here's step 4. For the classic bar style pickled eggs, to one of the jars I'm going to add whole mustard seeds, then the coriander seeds, 1 cinnamon stick, which I also broke into smaller bits, and red pepper flakes, and a bit of ginger powder. And using a knife, just gently swirl things around to distribute these ingredients through the brine. Now check to make sure the brine is covering the eggs. If not, you can top it up simply by adding a bit of the white vinegar. To the other jar, which I'm going to make the Amish style mustard pickled eggs, I drop in the red onions, which I cut into thin slivers and then into small sections. And then the next thing I do is add the mustard. You can choose either plain yellow mustard, but I like smooth Dijon mustard because it adds a little extra flavor. And then add the whole mustard seeds. Now it's time to add the turmeric powder, which not only adds a nice flavor but creates this beautiful yellow color. And the last thing I'm going to add are the celery seeds. And then gently stir to distribute these ingredients in the brine. Once you've added all your ingredients, cover the jar with the lid and gently shake the jar to further distribute the ingredients. That's all there is to the 2 flavors using the hot or cooked brine. And in step 5, the next thing I'm going to show you is how I make the cold brine. Use a small pot or a bowl to which you add your distilled white vinegar, water, sweetener, coarse salt, celery seeds, and the black peppercorns, and then stir to combine. Add the specific ingredients to make the dill and garlic version. Having added about 3 or 4 eggs to the bottom of the jar, and then I position a few sprigs of the fresh dill in the jar. I drop in a few more eggs, add some more fresh dill like this, toss in my garlic pieces, and lastly pour in the cold brine. Place the lid on the jar and gently give it a shake to distribute all the ingredients. Now it will take some time for these pickled eggs to develop the flavor and to cure, so place the jars in the refrigerator, and for best flavor, keep them refrigerated for at least 1 week. By the way, they will keep for quite a while in your refrigerator. Additionally, once a day, give each of the jar a gentle shake back and forth to distribute the ingredients. And I do hope that you'll find this zero carb snack a useful recipe. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch my video, and please share the link with someone that you think might also like this recipe. Word of mouth is the best way to help my channel and help it grow. Most of all, please come back when I post my next video. Until next time, have a very happy and healthy day. Cheers!